Alright guys, welcome back to Elden Ring. We are starting this episode off at the Round Table Hold, so we can level up our new companion, the Man-Serpent Spirit Ash. As I mentioned in the last episode, this Spirit Ash wields a Magna Whip candlestick and fits our Indiana Jones theme. So I really wanted to make use of this Ash, and it's going to come in handy very early on in this episode for a few bosses. So what makes the Magma Whip candlestick so special is its weapon skill, which is called Sea of Magma. Once activated, the magma will spill from the candlestick, harming anything that stands in it. Very helpful in boss fights and against enemies weak to fire. Now we just traveled to the abandoned coffin site of grace in the Altus Plateau. Now the first thing we're going to do here is grab an Ash of War off of this scarab over here. Now before you do so, make sure you have your beast repellent torch active because there are wolves about that will interrupt you as you're trying to get this Ash of War. Now this Ash of War is Order's Blade. It's the same incantation we got from D, Hunter of the Dead, but you could use this and designate a weapon to always have the ability to kill the undead if you didn't want to use a memory slot. Now we're heading into our first cave of the episode called the Sage's Cave. Now what makes this cave unique is it harbors not one, but two bosses. The first boss we're going to square up against is Necromancer Garris, and then we're going to fight another Black Knife Assassin. Now don't forget to pick up these Trina's Lilies. There's 3 of them right here. Make sure you pick those up. Now Necromancer Garris and the Black Knife Assassin are both weak to slashing damage, which is great for us because we just upgraded our Nox Flowing Sword to plus 10. So we're going to give the Nox Flowing Sword a nice workout against these two bosses. Before we take on this cave, we're going to go sit at this grace and do some prepping. First, let's mix in both stamina tiers. Now, we do need to get rid of some of our cracked pot stock as well because we're currently full and we want to craft some holy water pots for this cave. So let's just get rid of our current volcano pots. I'm going to throw about 6 of them here. And then I'm going to craft about 6 of the holy pots. For our talismans, we're going to go with the Sacred Scorpion Charm and the Ritual Sword Talisman. Now we're loading up on holy damage because this cave is full of skeletons, giant skeletons, and what better way to deal with a horde of skeletons than holy damage. We're also going to equip the Sentry Torch for later since we have no need of the Beast Torch in this cave, and we also want to equip the Jellyfish Shield to get more damage out of our holy pots, and of course our tried and true Nox Flowing Sword for the 2 bosses. The Misericord will also be useful for the Black Knife Assassin. Now we're going to buff our whip with Order's Blade as usual so that the skeletons will not revive. Now this cave is chock full of illusionary walls. So if you wanted to, you could just use Margit's Shackle and have all the walls already uncovered. However, I advise against this because one of the illusionary walls houses a group of enemies that will have a line of sight on us if we are to use it. But if we don't use it and we just hit the walls as Miyazaki intended, we'll get the advantage on the skeletons. So that's what we're going to do. Now that item that we just picked up, that is a lost Ash of War. That will allow us to duplicate Ashes of War. So you just want to get to this wall and you can actually hit the skeleton as you're revealing the wall, which is good. And just let them file in one at a time. This is the way you want to do it. It's the safest way to do it and the most effective. You want to loot all of these chests. Now for this next section, we need to be careful because there is a giant skeleton along with a few archers. The giant skeleton can and will one-shot us at our vigor level, trust me. But with the holy pots and contagious fury, we will not have an issue. But just to be safe, I'm going to apply some buffs. Golden Vow first, and then we'll do contagious fury. Now you want to start off on the right side. Throw a holy pot at this skeleton here. Now you may miss a throw here at this skeleton. If you do, turn your attention to the bigger threat in the room, the giant skeleton. Now, one pot will take him down to practically nothing, so you can just finish him off with the whip. But make sure you hit him twice because your buff is probably run out by now, Order's Blade. And finally, we can kill this pesky skeleton that somehow evaded 2 of our throws under his legs. Are you kidding me? From Software, man. Now, there's a stone sword key right here. You definitely want to pick this up. The skeleton's easy pickings for us. But again, you'll need to hit him when he's on the ground in his reanimation process. We'll get this stone sword key. Now we're coming up to a couple of chests to loot. Now, one of the chests contains probably the best claw weapon in the entire game, the Raptor Talons. This thing is so good, and you also get some Dragon Wound Grease for later. But the Raptor Talons are so good, guys. They're very fast. They build up status effects very quick, and you can combine it with certain talismans to do even more damage. It's just going to be a fun weapon to use in the future, and we are going to use it at some point. Now, because we're fighting 2 bosses here, and we don't want to respawn the enemies, you're going to only be able to use 1 spirit summon per boss. So we have to pick and choose which ones we're going to use. For this boss, we're going to use the Rotten Stray Ash. In our second fight, we're going to use our Man Serpent Ash. So the key to victory in this fight is to take care of his little skull friend first. So what you want to do, as soon as you enter the fog wall after buffing here, we're going to immediately summon our Rotten Stray Ash, and then we're going to target the skull to the left of the Necromancer and throw 1 holy pot at it. If you miss for whatever reason, just throw another one. It will die in 1 hit. And then you just need to get Flowing Form ready and just hit the Necromancer whenever you get a chance. You can actually tank through some hits, and I will do it here as you'll see. If he summons these little skulls after you, just initiate Flowing Form and you'll take a hit, but you'll tank right through it and you'll get him with the Flowing Form, and that's all it's going to take. Now it's time for the final boss of Sage's Cave. It's another Black Knife Assassin, but with a gimmick. This boss is completely invisible and will one-shot us with a critical attack grab. Now this is where you need the Sentry Torch. It's a must. Some people say, oh, you don't need that. No, use the Sentry Torch unless you just want a headache forever long. With our vigor level, we can't survive anything, so use the Sentry Torch in your offhand, and we're going to use our Man Serpent Ash for the first time here. As soon as you enter the fog wall, just use your Spirit Ash, because your Spirit Ash can see the boss. So I guess alternatively, you could survive, but it's just not worth it in my opinion. Using the Sentry Torch in your offhand is the easiest way to take out this boss, because you just want to be able to see what's hitting you, so make sure you have the torch ready. But I usually just summon first and then get the torch in my offhand, because without it, you're helpless. So you can use backstabs to kill this boss pretty easily if you just run away from him. Eventually they'll do a jump attack, which you can easily get behind the boss and backstab him. We'll do that a few times, but the easiest way to kill the boss is just wait until your Man Serpent Ash has his attention, and then you can get all the backstabs in the world for free. But again, you still want to try to get the Nox Flowing Sword some action here, but I wanted to try Royal's Knight's Resolve here and see how much damage I could do, but I think that using the Nox Flowing Sword would have been the better option. Now bear in mind, you have 10 seconds after activating Royal Knight's Resolve. Here I'm going to go ahead and activate it, and then run up on the boss and do a backstab. I'll get a little bit more damage there than my previous backstab, as you can see. That he has like over 200 more damage. But once our Man Serpent Ash gets his attention yet again, we're just going to get another backstab, and he's nearly dead already. And we're just going to use the Nox Flowing Sword to finish him off. It's a very easy boss with our setup. I mean, we're already overpowered anyway, so it's not going to take very long. Now we will get a reward for killing this boss called the Concealing Veil, a talisman that will keep us completely invisible while crouching from a distance. I think From Software could have done a better job with this talisman. There is no indicator to show when you are completely invisible, unfortunately. So I think it's like 5 medium rolls from the enemy. So we're going to try to use it, but it's just a talisman I've never really quite got the hang of. but we'll see how it goes. Ignore the map for now, guys. We're going to go back to Jarburg and Liurnia of the Lakes. That's where we're going to end up here. We need to exhaust all of this little guy's dialogue, this little pot here who's sitting right here. We just want to exhaust all of his dialogue until he starts talking about poachers. Once he starts talking about poachers, we can leave the area. Now, the reason we're doing this is we're doing some legwork because we're going to be doing dialysis quests in this episode to get the Hoslow Petal Whip. So by talking to this jar over and over, we will do a little bit of the legwork and get it out of the way. So you can see we got to sit at a grace and talk to him some more. He'll start talking about Alexander next. His uncle is Alexander. Then he'll start talking about how he wants to leave home and all this. Once he gets that dialogue, then you want to go back and sit at the grace again. I know this is tedious, but trust me, it'll be worth it in the end. And this is the part where he'll talk about the poachers, I believe. The third part of his dialogue should be about the poachers. Yes. So after this, we can leave. Make sure he's repeating his dialogue, though. He'll say, "I hope Uncle Alexander will take care of the poachers." Okay, so that's our cue to leave. Now, our next step in our journey is to go to Volcano Manor proper. So Rileigh wanted to take us there, and we're going to let her. So we need to go back to the Grand Lift of Dectus site of Grace here. And as soon as we get off the lift, we'll be able to talk to Rileigh, and she'll take us to Volcano Manor. We've already seen her in a previous episode when we used the Grand Lift for the first time, and I said we'd come back to her, and here's where we're going to do it. So the reason we want to do it this way is getting to Volcano Manor another way, it takes a very long time. You got to climb up mountains and stuff. It's just a pain in the ass. So this is your best way of getting into the manor proper. Upon your arrival, you want to hit the grace to your left. Make sure you hit this grace here. You can travel back here, no problem now. The stairs to the top floor there will lead you to an NPC evasion instead. Let's talk to Tanith, leader of the manor here, and agree to join Volcano Manor. You'll get a drawing room key. This will open up a few doors down this hallway here. The first door you want to open is the second one on your left, right here. You might remember a few NPCs that are in this room. Most notably, Dielos against the wall there. We definitely need to talk to him and exhaust all of his dialogue immediately.
So you've been weird
Now, our goal is to get Dielos' ass out of the Volcano Manor and into Jarburg. But this is easier said than done. A lot of times he'll leave the manor, but he won't be in Jarburg, and you have to go back to Jarburg and come back to the manor. It's really stupid and convoluted, but I think I know how to get him to move to Jarburg, so we're going to do that in this episode. You can also talk to Bernard here. He was in Limgrave earlier. He's the one that was selling you the Ashes of War. And there's Rileigh here. We'll talk to her again later. But there was a letter on the table that we just got. These will mark your assassination requests here. It'll be in red. It'll be a teleporter in red. You want to go back to Limgrave and head to the area where we got our hammer talisman in the first episode. Right there. Now, I did mention in the first episode that if you did not get the hammer talisman from the NPC invader in the area that we're heading to, that after you join Volcano Manor, you will no longer be able to obtain that talisman for the entirety of the playthrough. So before you join Volcano Manor, make sure that you get this hammer talisman if you want it. So our first assassination quest for Volcano Manor is this NPC right here. He is going to be an absolute cakewalk for us, guys, because we have a fully upgraded Nox Flowing Sword, and I don't know why I'm buffing here because it's useless. Nothing carries over once you invade. But yeah, the Nox Flowing Sword is going to absolutely rip this guy to pieces. So what we're going to do is just wait for him to come to us. We can maybe do a couple of buffs if we can get enough time, but it's just flowing for him, guys. He can't handle it. He might trade Gravitas on us, And he will heal one time, but you just keep spamming the Nox Flowing Sword and he cannot do anything. He is absolute trivial to us. Now we want to head back to the manor and get our first reward, which is a spell, a magma spell. But then we're going to get our second request. Upon completing each assassination request, we need to make sure that we exhaust all of the dialogue from the NPCs in that room that we went into, and just continue to do that every time, especially Dialos. And sometimes he won't be there. But we want to talk to Tanth here and get our magma shot spell. Make sure you exhaust all of her dialogue before moving back to the room. Patches is also here, but we'll deal with him shortly. You'll notice another letter on the table here. This is our second request. Now, Dialos don't have anything new to say here, but I'm going to continue to exhaust his dialogue every single time I see him. And Bernarl here will give us some new Ashes of War after completing our first assassination. We're just going to purchase all of the Ashes of War he's got, since we got enough runes anyway. Assassin's Gambit is pretty good for stealth builds, and we are going to be using stealth pretty soon. We're building up an arsenal for it. You see Raya has something new to say here about slithering. So now we're going to go to our next request. But on the way to this request, we are going to take a pit stop towards a church. And this is where Yura's quest will continue. Unfortunately for Yura, he has met his demise at the hands of Eleonora. Now, he briefly mentioned this enemy when we were helping him in Rileigh. After he dies, he will drop his Nagakiba, the katana that he was using. This katana is the equivalent of, I would say, the washing pole from Dark Souls series. It's very long, and it has a very nice Ash of War attached to it called Piercing Fang, which is a very powerful thrusting attack that will go through pretty much any shield. So it's very nice to use, but you can actually put Unsheath on this thing and have like an upgraded Unsheath Ash of War. A lot of possibilities here. I'm not sure how we're going to spin it yet, but we want to head back to that Spirit Spring. We already been to this area before when we went to the Writhe Blood Ruins in the last episode, but in this one we're going to go up one spring, and then we're going to look for a church. And there's the church. We've already put a marker on it. So this church has some blood roses around, and we're going to pick up every single one of them. But take care, because there are rotten strays about, so make sure you have your beast repellent torch in your offhand unless you want to get mauled to death. But yeah, they're around the perimeter here are some blood roses, and inside the church are even more blood roses. Eleonora will not spawn until you talk to Yuria, so once you talk to Yuria and he dies, then Eleonora will spawn. So we have all the time in the world here to collect our blood roses. Now, Eleonora has dragon incantations. You're meant to use the pillars to block the fire attacks and the AoE attack, but we're going to end this boss so quickly that it doesn't really matter. It's going to take like 3 hits to kill her with Nox Flowing Sword plus 10. Now we have the Nagakiba. So let's go ahead and start buffing before she comes in. I just do 2 buffs here, but you want to make sure you top off your FP because you are going to be using Flowing Form here. Now, if you get too close to her, she will use an AoE or a fire attack, so you make sure you use the pillars for cover. But with Flowing Form, we can tank through a few of her hits. It's only going to take a few shots, and she'll be dead. For killing her, we will get a Crystal Tear. Now, this one is used for a specific situation, for a specific boss later on, and we'll get her Pole Blade, which is one of the best weapons in the entire game, so I hear. Now we're going to go head on to this location that's marked on our map. Now this next NPC is another easy one with our Nox Flowing Sword, but he does Scarlet Rot to you, so you got to be careful. He will shoot his crossbow a lot of times, and then he'll try to get you with his dagger, which also does Scarlet Rot. But we're just going to use the Flowing Form again, and they have next to 0 chance to kill us. Although, with our vigor level, we won't be able to take many hits, maybe 2. And then we do get hit once here, I think. But when you spawn in, all you got to do is just drop down here, get to a lower level, and just use Flowing Form once. If you spam it, you can hit him again. And sometimes he'll try to heal, but he didn't get it off. Well, he did get it off there. But as you can see, just spamming Flowing Form is the strategy. There's really not a lot of strategic things to do right now. We have such a powerful weapon that a lot of these NPC fights are trivial. And for our reward, we get the Crepice Veil. Now this talisman will eliminate all sound that we make. So very good for stealth. And we will be using it. We'll also get the Serpent Bone Blade, a katana that does poison innately. And it has a nice Ash of War double slash. Pretty easy to get poison buildup. Exhaust all of the dialogue from Tanith, and we're going to head on. Now we'll notice that Rileigh has not in her spot. She's missing for some reason. And Dialos is also gone. So like I said, sometimes he's here, sometimes he's not. We'll pick up the next letter, and we'll open up this door across the hall. And we'll see this serpent that seems to have Rileigh's clothes. Certainly this isn't Rileigh, right? Oh, it is Rileigh. She's actually a snake. Well, that's interesting. She'll be somewhat embarrassed and ask you not to tell anybody about her true form. So what we need to do now is get Dialos to appear in the manor once again. He hasn't moved to Jarburg yet, so I think what you need to do is just reset the area. I went to Jarburg, but it's not necessary. I think you just reload the area. And you can see on the map, if you go back to Volcano Manor, he'll be listed as the NPCs there. So we just go back to Volcano Manor and get him to reappear, and we'll talk to him again. We're getting closer. If he has his hand in his face, we know we're getting closer. Exhaust all of his dialogue. And we're going to go head back to Jarburg. Now I did a quick edit here because I went back to Jarburg and then came back to the manor to talk to Dialos again.
Someone please kill him.
Talk to him again. And we're going to head back to Jarburg and hope he's there. Like I said, this is easier said than done, guys. Just getting him to move out of the manor is a act of Congress. It's just, when will he leave? I don't know what the triggers are, really. So I just was experimenting, and I did all this stuff, and as you can see, he's gone now. He's finally gone. So we've probably done it. After doing the second assassination request and getting him to move out of Volcano Manor, he is now in Jarburg, and that's all we needed. We're going to go talk to our little jar friend again, and he will mention a new arrival in the village. Dialos has arrived.
I don't know, even though he says
He will mention how he's very glad to have him, and how his hands are smooth and silky, unlike ours. So now Dialos will be the protector of the village from the poachers. He's going to be in this shack right here. Just talk to him and exhaust his dialogue. He doesn't have much to say. When he says, "Do you pity me?" that will be the last dialogue you need to get. Now, we just need to reset the area a few times, and then the poachers will have attacked. So what we need to do is get the jar to go to sleep now. You can see if he's asleep from a distance, so we're just going to sit at the grace, and you can see he's on his side. So now we just need to talk to him again, but he's dreaming about Dialos' hands, how silky and smooth they are. Now for this next bit, you need to reset the area. I kept sitting at the grace thinking, okay, maybe if I fast forward some time, maybe that'll do it. That's not going to do it. You need to go out of the area and come back. So just resetting the area will do it. But I was thinking, well, maybe if I just wait till morning, wait till noon, wait till night. And no, it doesn't work. Trust me, I've been there. But I'm going to leave it in just to show you it doesn't work. What you have to do is reset the area. So just go to your map and hit Jarburg again, and it will be advanced. Here's where I just realized, you know what? We're just going to reset the area. And now the poachers have attacked. You'll see that the jar is not in his usual spot, but he's down here in panic mode.
I'm glad that we're fine. So, I won't cry.
Dialos has been injured
Kind of, even if I'm scared.
and has met his demise. With his last breath, he will ask you, did he defend the pots? Just say that he did, and he will die. Now we need to reset the area again. This time the pot will be over Dialos' body, vowing to
That's the kind of one
be just like him.
That's the kind of one who protects.
One more time, guys. Reset the area one more time, and I promise you this misery will be over. We will finally get our prize. The Hoslow Petal Whip. This whip does bleed damage, and you can actually dual wield them because you can get another one later on in the mountaintops of the giants. Of course, we're not going to get that for quite a while, but it is a cool thing you can do. But in the meantime, we can do another discount version of our dual whip setup and have our regular whip and put blood grease on it or use an incantation, the Bloodflame incantation, which does bleed and flame.
I don't believe it's in here.
And you can have dual wielding whips that do bleed. Now we're going to talk to Patches finally. We want another whip, and he has it. We'll need to exhaust all his dialogue first, and he'll give us a letter
But if you relax, go on.
with a snarky little laugh at the end, like we can't do the task. So we need to go back to the magma worm fight side of Grace. This is the reason we killed the boss in the last episode, so that we would have access to this area. If you did not get the casual greeting gesture from that NPC, you will not get it anymore because he is now your enemy. So hopefully you've gotten it already. So this boss, we're going to use our coiled snake because this guy likes to charge us. And the snake will not only poison him, but stop him in his tracks, giving us a chance to retreat. You can see right there, he's already poisoned. And just wait for some attack opportunities and just use flowing form. And when he charges you, just use the snake again. That's really the strategy that I used, and it works very well. Sometimes he'll do a stomp attack, which gives you a wide open attack for the Nox Flowing Sword again. And luckily for us, this NPC does not heal, which is nice. He'll also try to shoot you with the Arbalist, but we're just too powerful for this guy. And one more snake bite, and he is a wrap. Now we can get our Magma Whip Candlestick from Patches. We have 4 whips now, guys. 4 out of 6. Not too bad. There's actually a total of 7, but there's 1 in the DLC. But I heard it's not that great. But I've heard a lot of things that aren't great in this game that I thought were pretty damn good, like the Nox Flowing Sword. So we're going to go back to the Manor now and talk to Patches and get our reward. But unfortunately, Patches doesn't want to give it to us right away. Of course, he's just got to be Patches. So tell him that the request is done, and he'll be like, oh, good job. Are you certain you did that? Huh. Then leave, and then you have to sit at the Grace and come back. He won't just give it to you right away. Once you sit at the Grace, you go talk to him again and say, where's my reward? Then he'll reluctantly give it up to you.
Hello again. Sharper than I was just holding on. Here you go.
But trust me, this whip is very nice, guys. Very nice. It's going to serve us very well in the future. Now, if you've ever wondered, what Souls games need or Elden Ring needs, you know what we need? We need a weapon that is like a pizza cutter that can just cut through enemies. Well, here's your wish, guys. This guy has a pizza cutter, and we're going to get it from him. We're not going to use it in our build, however, but here it is if you want it. You're just going to buff here, Now, the NPC won't approach you until you get close to the Smithing Stone 6 over here. As soon as you get in this area, he will spawn, but we're just going to keep our distance and use Flowing Form, and it'll only take like 3 hits. You can just lock onto him and then just start spamming. 1, 2, just keep your distance, and 3, and he's done. Easy peasy. You'll get your nice pizza cutter. That was just a snap, wasn't it? And people think these games are really hard. They're really not. It's just as hard as you make it, guys. Now, we got to go to the Liurnia of the Lakes now. We need to continue Nepheli's quest, and we need to get into this area over here. Bear in mind, there's 2 versions of this area. We'll get to it later, but for now, we need to get to the village of the Albinarics, and we'll get there next. Before we go to the village, though, we're going to take a pit stop to the Rose Church over here because there is a scarab that has the Bloodflame incantation, so we can put blood and flame on our weapons at the same time. Not too shabby, so let's go to the Rose Church and get that scarab, and I recommend shooting it from a distance. Of course, you don't have to, but this is the way I'm going to do it. So now that we have the Hoslow Petal Whip, a whip that finally does bleed damage innately, we'll be able to combine it later on with another Hoslow Petal Whip, or you could use the Thorn Whip, which you can grind for in the mountaintops of the giants. But for now, we're going to use our basic whip as an alternative, as like a discount knockoff build here. We can put this incantation that we're about to get from this scarab on our right-handed whip and have the Hoslow Petal Whip in the left hand, and we can have dual whip build set up for bleed, which is very nice. Just one shot with the jar cannon will give us the blood flame incantation. Now, to get to the village of Albinarics, it's kind of hard to find sometimes, but you want to head to this spot right here on the map. This is a grace. Now, when you get to that grace, it's going to be very easy to get to the village. I recommend starting from the Boil Prawn Shack side of Grace. It's just easier to get to, in my opinion. And you just want to follow your marker till you get to the grace. Now, there's going to be a scarab coming up that will give us an incantation that's kind of unique. It's called Vow of the Indomitable. It will give you 100% invulnerability for only 1 second. I'm not sure how much FP that's going to use, but for a second, I guess you could time it or something. I haven't experimented with it yet, but it's going to be kind of interesting to maybe use in one of my boss fights or something. We'll see. But here is your grace. There are crabs about. Be wary. These crabs are very aggressive, just like any other crab. But the problem with these crabs is they are in poison, so we can't just get off of Torrent and use our ground slam or something. We're going to have to just avoid them for now. But we want to get off of Torrent to get to the scarab. So the scarab is just over here. There are 2 crabs about right here. Just go between them. And in this area right here is where the scarab is. Sneak up behind him. And get your Vow of the Indomitable. And just continue on. And here is your area right here. Just want to head to this area. And it's going to start getting darker. You'll know you're in the right spot when it starts getting darker. Right here. I'm going to put on my lantern. Nepheli will be up this slope. Now we need to exhaust all of her dialogue before moving on. There are no enemies in her vicinity right here, so we're safe.
Oh, it's you. Well, I witnessed it.
Once you exhaust all of her dialogue, you can get a larval tier that's guarded by a lot of the villagers, but I bypass it right now because I really don't need a larval tier right now. But if you need one, it's right here up to the right. We're going to hit this grace right here and get ready to take out a rather annoying enemy, but we're going to make it very easy on ourselves because we have the lovely jar cannon at our disposal. This guy uses perfume spells or something, and it's quite annoying, I must say. These enemies are very annoying to deal with at close combat, so I recommend just using your equalizer and take him out with 2 shots. If you want to, you can get kind of close to him, but it's not necessary. Now, you want to kill this guy because he might interrupt you and kill this NPC up here, which we need to talk to get a part of a medallion. He's hidden in this jar. You can just roll into it, just like you did Bach.
Please no.
There's an ivory sickle over here.
I haven't a clue.
You just talk to him, exhaust all of his dialogue, and he will die after it's over.
Wait then. You're not
But he will give you this half of this medallion, of this secret medallion. Bear in mind, once you get this medallion piece, when you go back to Round Table Hold, you will be attacked by another NPC, and he has our garb that we want for our gauntlets, so we'll be able to get that. He also has another weapon that we want to use called the Clinging Bone. Now, this weapon has the art of war called Lifesteal Fist that we got in Caelid earlier. But like I had said in that video, that I wasn't really going to use it because I'm going to get it already on this weapon. You want to head to the left side of this bridge, and so you can dodge to the right when he shoots this beam at you. Don't worry about these enemies on the bridge. They're not worth your time. There is a boss fight coming up. We're going to make short work of this boss. But first, the dogs must go. There's one right here. Just shoot it with the jar cannon. There'll be another one down here. Make sure to just lock on and get that one. Now we want to get, the third one's a little tricky. We want to get on turret here and get on this house and then jump to the other house over here. And by the chimney, we can set up shop and get a good shot on this last dog over here. You'll see him right there. If you're using the regular bolts, you should be able to get him with one shot there. Now we're going to summon in our Spirit Ash, just for a distraction. And we're going to use Flowing Form to take out this boss. Surprise. But we're also going to shoot him once, just to get a little bit of his health off, and aggro him to start it off. Same as before, we're just keeping our distance and waiting for an opportunity. It will not take long to kill this boss. 2 to 3 hits, depending on if your Spirit Ash has done any damage to him, and it's over. Now we're going to head back to Round Table Hold and take out that NPC that we just talked about. But there is a rune arc over here. Do not forget to get this. Now for the NPC fight, it's a cakewalk. All we're going to do is just use Flowing Form twice, and he'll be dead. And you can use the table for cover. And of course, the Nox Flowing Sword will go through the table and hit the enemy. So yeah, the Nox Flowing Sword, guys. I can't gush about this weapon enough. You see how easy the game has become now that we have a fully maxed out Nox Flowing Sword. And just what you want to do is just get on to the table here, run to the side of the table, and then just use Flowing Form twice, and it's over. Done. You'll get his weapon and his garb where he was standing earlier. The Clinging Bone. This weapon will do the Lifesteal Fist. And this, we only want the gauntlets from this set. The gauntlets will be part of our build in certain situations. Now we're going to go talk to Nepheli. She is downstairs where the blacksmith is here. You just want to head downstairs, and she's down here. Exhaust all of her dialogue.
Ah, you please. It's pathetic. Ah, you please. It's pathetic.
And while we're down here, we're going to use 3 stone sword keys. The first one is right here. This will lead us to a crossbow. This is the same crossbow that the NPC that was trying to kill us with rot had as part of our second assassination quest for Volcano Manor. It's the same exact crossbow. Now we want to come in through here and get our next item, the Assassin's Prayer Book. Oh my god, guys, if you thought we were breaking the game already, you haven't seen anything yet. There is a spell in this prayer book that just, it makes the game super easy mode, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go get it from our friend the Turtle in Liurnia of the Lakes. But yeah, this spell, guys, I'm surprised they didn't nerf this thing, because this is such an exploitable spell. But we need to go talk to Gideon for the first time here. Well, for the first time in his study. We need to talk to him about Nefeli's despair. He can give you information about all the bosses, the main bosses, the shard bearers. Once you talk about Nefeli's despair, we need to go back to Nefeli and talk to her again. Now, once her dialogue has been exhausted, we can go to the next step of her quest,
So you know all right.
which involves us going into the Four Belfries in Liurnia of the Lakes, and we have to travel back to where the game started. And we need to kill the Grafted Scion that killed us at the beginning.
No, how could his father has now?
And then her part of the storyline will be secure. To complete the next step in Nefeli's questline, we need to make our way back to the beginning of the game. That's where the Four Belfries comes in. These are a series of teleporters that will take you to certain locations. The one we're interested in is the one on the far right. But we need to make our way to the very top of the Belfries first to obtain an imbued sword key. This will allow us to go back to the Chapel of Anticipation where the game started. But you got to pick the right teleporter. Now, there are messages next to each teleporter that will give you a hint as to where you're going. And ours in particular will say Precipice of Anticipation. So be sure you have the right teleporter, because you only get one key right now. You can ignore these trolls, they're not worth our time. But there's also a grace up here where we can prep for the boss fight. For the Grafted Scion, we're going to use our tried and true Volcano pot setup, because it's only going to take like 4 of them to kill him with our buffs active. I don't recommend getting too close to the Grafted Scion, so you're going to want to attack from distance. So the Volcano pots will melt this boss, like I said, with our buffs. It's just the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. You want to hit this grace here, and let's prep. So we want to mix in our Flame Shrouding Crystal tier and our Strength tier for our Physics Flask. And for the Talismans, we want to make sure we put on the Fire Scorpion charm there. You're going to want to craft as many pots as possible, the volcano pots. So the gist for this boss is we want him to attack us first, and he usually does straight out of the gate. As soon as we get through the fog wall, he's going to usually leap at us, and you want to run underneath him and get as much distance as you can from him and just start chunking volcano pots. As long as you can connect about 4 volcano pots with all our buffs active, the boss will die, and you'll just move on and get the next step of Nefeli's quest complete. But here is the proper teleporter to go through. Make sure you pick the right one. Chapel of Anticipation. Yes, we're back to the start of the game. Except this time we're going backwards. Now, let's go ahead and buff Flame Gauntlet Strength, Golden Vow, Strength Flasks. And you'll need your Jellyfish Shield out to get more damage. Contagious Fury, and go through the wall. You want him to jump at you like this. This is a perfect situation because now we can create distance and just start chunking pots. It should only take about 4 if you get a direct hit. We've hit him with 1 already. There's 2. Just keep rolling and creating distance. He's got great range with his swords. And here's our last throw, and he's done. We just need to make our way back to the original room we started in. But we need to get to the upper level, which we didn't have access to originally. There are 2 items to get. One we'll have to give to Nefeli, and the other one we'll have for ourselves. As soon as you get up these stairs, there'll be a passage off here to the right. And this is what you need to give to Nefeli right here. And this is for us. Now bear in mind, if you did not do Vare's quest and you didn't get access to the Church of Inhibition to soak your cloth in the blood of a maiden, this maiden right here is your second option. Now we need to go talk to Nefeli and give her the item that we got, the Stormhawk King. This will make her feel better. It'll bring her out of her despair. This is which is exactly what we need.
Father has been now.
I'm going to go ahead and mention this now. There is another NPC quest that we're going to do in the future that can end her quest.
It reminds me of my...
It will ruin everything, but we're not going to ruin her quest. We're going to make the right decisions. But we're not going to get to that for a while anyway. We're going to our friend the turtle here, and we are going to get what I think is one of the best spells in the entire game, if not the best. It's just so broken, guys. It's unbelievable. It is called Darkness. And you get it from that prayer book that we got in Round Table Hold. We're getting it right here. It's just unfair how good it is. I didn't know how it worked at first, and then I realized this is not a buff for me. This is a status effect sort of for the enemies. So when you cast this spell, it will de-aggro the enemy. So you can have aggro on you all day long, even from groups of enemies this works on. So as long as they get hit by it. So the aggro goes away, and you can do whatever you want to the enemy. It's literally a cheat code, because they just stand there, and they're looking at the sky like, is that a solar eclipse over there? And you can just backstab them. You can make a sandwich. You can read War and Peace. You can do whatever you want to these enemies after they get hit with this spell. I have tested this out with large groups of enemies, and they just stand there and they look at the sky like, what's that up there? And you got all the time in the world to do whatever you want. I've actually cast Royal Knight's Resolve on the Mesericord and backstabbed enemies. It's a great spell, guys. It's 100% going to be part of our build, because we can exploit the hell out of it, and that's what we like to do. Now we're heading back to Limgrave because we want to get another talisman over here. This talisman is situational. You have to pretty much strip down to nothing. You have to be naked to use it pretty much. But it's going to be very useful for some encounters that we're going to have. This is called the Highroad Cave. Not the easiest cave to find in Limgrave, but it's actually a pretty large cave, and it's got multi-tiers to it. I kind of messed up with my loadout here. You want to have your arbalest in the right hand, not the left hand, and I screwed that up. I eventually figured it out, because you want to have the beast torch active, because there are several wolves in here in the beginning part of the cave. There's like a top part of the cave, middle part, and then the bottom part. The top and the middle have the wolves, so you definitely want to have your beast torch active at all times in these first 2 sections. Do not have the arbalest in the left hand. I made a mistake here. You want to have it in the right hand. You'll see why later, because you want to be holding the beast torch in your left hand and have the arbalest in your right hand to shoot the wolves. I was going to edit this out, but mistakes happen. But definitely the torch. I didn't even realize I needed the torch at first either. You don't need the Misericord until the boss fight. So I could have taken that off and put the Arbalist in that hand. But we will figure it out eventually here. You just want to drop down. There are several wolves in this area. You deal with them any way you want, but you better have the Beast Torch out. I think this is when I realized I need this in the right hand. And there we go. Now we got it. You can just shoot them from distance and not have to worry about them. You turn to the left here, there's 2 wolves here. You're not going to be able to see the second one right away. Now, there is some alpha wolves in here too, and I don't like dealing with them too much. I'll use volcano pots most of the time. I think we're going to use them here. Yep. Volcano pots for the win. This pretty much clears the top section. Now to the middle section. More wolves down here though. Just don't miss your jump because you will die. It's quite a long drop here. Now there's an alternative path you can take to better ambush some of the alpha wolves, and I do take it, but for some reason I missed a wolf and he nibbles at my ankles a little bit. I was a little embarrassed by that. But right here you got 2 more. Down here we'll just throw a volcano pot. Up here is where you want to go to ambush the wolves from above, instead of just going in the linear path that way. I love how the developers give you alternate paths to tackle situations. Now we have the advantage. We have the high ground on the alpha wolf. We can just throw volcano pot, shoot another couple of them, and you see there's a wolf behind me I didn't know, and he's already got me and knocked me off. I'm just waiting for him to come down so I can give him the business. Here he comes. Hey, we shot him in midair. That's pretty sweet. We're just going to go around sniping any wolves we see with the Arbalist. Now, once we clear this section, there are no more wolves, but there are plenty of bats. So just work your way from left to right and make sure all the bats are dead. There's quite a few in here, and one you can't shoot from here right there, but we'll get him in a minute. There are 2 more bats here you want to snipe. Arbalest will take them out from distance easily. I love how people think that certain weapons are useless. I mean, I've seen respected YouTubers say that the Arbalest was terrible, that it was useless, pretty much. That's far from the truth. I mean, look at this. I'm just sniping these bats like there's no tomorrow, and I don't even have to deal with them. Now you can snipe this one. I just think that the developers make it to where you can use anything in their games. If you want to center a build around crossbows, you can do it. I mean, they're not useless. Make sure to throw a volcano pot here because there are 2 bats that you're not going to be able to shoot easily. If you just drop down, they'll just get you. But yeah, the developers, they make it to where you can use anything, and that's what I really like about these Souls games, is it doesn't matter if you want to build, making a build entirely around crossbows and whips like Indiana Jones, you can do it. Fists, you can do it. It's amazing series, and nothing quite like it. You want to make sure you jump over here and be careful. There are no more bats in the area. We've killed them all. Usually when you drop down here, you'll get ambushed by all the bats at once, but we've already taken care of them, so no problem. The only enemy we have left are the squid octopus, the land octopuses. There's one big one up on the top here. We need the Cestus to take him out, because we need to do our tried and true ground slam, followed by critical with the Misericord. He's right there. And you have to get the ground slam to hit his nose or whatever, his mouth, to stun him. It only takes one hit to stun, but you have to hit him directly on the nose or the mouth right there. And just one critical attack later. You don't even have to use Royal Knight's Resolve, just a regular critical hit, and he's done. Now for the boss. The boss is super easy. It's just a regular golem, and we're just going to use the Cestus and then follow up the Misericord, and he'll be dead pretty soon. We don't even have to use buffs, although I do a little bit of overkill just for fun. I even use Royal Knight's Resolve. I probably didn't even use that either. But you want to drop down here. Buff before the fog wall. You don't have to buff really. I mean, this boss is trivial. This is a early game boss, and we are way overpowered for this boss. So it will not last long. I only drink the flask. That's the only thing I actually do here. Didn't need to buff. Just do some strong attacks on his ankle here. He'll go down. Royal Knight's Resolve with the Misericord, and it's over. And we'll get the Blue Dancer Charm. This is literally Flynn's Ring from the Dark Souls series. The lower your equip load, the more attack power you'll get. So we have to sacrifice our armor, or in our case, our indie garb, and you don't need to have any heavy weapons on you to get the most out of it. 8 pounds is the ideal weight. We're heading to this side of Grace here in the Weeping Peninsula, because we are going to take out a boss real quick to end the episode. We're going to stack fire damage, so we want our flaming cracked tear back, and we're going to put the fire scorpion charm on here. We're using our volcano pots again, so I'm going to get the jellyfish shield again. This is just another avatar. This one doesn't have Scarlet Rot, so this is a very easy one. But he's going to give us a crystal tear that is going to be very effective for us in the next episode. What it's going to do is regenerate health over time. Now, we already have a spell like that, but this lasts 3 minutes. 3 minutes. That's pretty significant when you have a health regen for 3 minutes. And what's good for health regen for an extended period of time? Poison. Yes, we don't have to worry about poison for 3 minutes. And by that time, most of the time, poison will wear off. So, yeah, having this tier is pretty awesome. It's the Crimson Burst tier. And it will serve us quite well in the next episode, because there are 2 caves we're going into that are filled with poison. So I wanted to make sure I got this before the next episode. We have some other things we're going to get in the next episode as well that are in the Weeping Peninsula. Mainly a talisman that will regenerate 2 health per second. And I mentioned this before when I did my egregious math error. And we already have the icon shield that does 3 health per second. So that is 5 health per second. I'm glad I was able to say that correctly. Now, Flame grant me strength. Golden Vow, drink your flask. And this will be over very quickly, guys. Just jellyfish the Contagious Fury. He's not even going to get a chance to attack us, I don't think. We just spam a few pots here. 2, 3. 3 pots. Not too bad. And that's it. We are going to head to our next destination, the Stillwater Cave in the Liurnia of the Lakes region. What we're doing right now is we're building up some talismans that are going to help us in the future. We got the Blue Dancer Charm earlier, and in the next episode we're going to get another one that's going to go quite well with it. I'll see you guys in the next one.